Hey y'all, TRG here, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the potential for 90-mile-an-hour winds with an intense MCS as it moves through portions of Iowa, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, and maybe even Ohio later on today. We'll also be providing a very brief update on tomorrow's severe weather threat and a very brief tropical update on the tropical system in the Eastern Pacific. Let's go right on into today's video. So here is your HRRR model run for around sometime about 4 p.m. later on today, where we should begin to see thunderstorms fire in Iowa and Wisconsin. That is going to be 4 p.m. Eastern. All times I mentioned in this video will be in Eastern, so if you're in Central, just take an hour off the timing that I mentioned. We should see intense thunderstorms develop by 5 p.m. So this is going to be about 5 p.m. Eastern when we see those thunderstorms rapidly develop, move into Wisconsin and Illinois as we go towards the 8 o'clock Eastern time frame. That's when we should have that 90-mile-per-hour potential begin out there in southern Wisconsin and Illinois, and that should continue into probably Chicago as well as into northwestern Indiana and Michigan, the area I've kind of highlighted here. That's where I'm going to be watching for the greatest damaging wind potential, and I think our highlighted damaging wind threat will really begin as we go towards the 7 o'clock time frame all the way till about 11 p.m. I believe that's going to be our prime damaging wind threat. We'll be live on this threat later on today, so if you can, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you know when I go live later on today. And if we just continue this towards midnight, you'll see this line should begin to weaken as we go towards 11 o'clock midnight Eastern time as it moves off to the east and southeast. Still, the potential for 60, 70-mile-an-hour winds as we go towards midnight tonight will be a possibility, and then eventually that begins to dissipate overnight. Here's your risk areas for today. We have a lot of different areas that we could be looking at severe weather being a possibility here. Main area, of course, is going to be this risk here, but we do have a level 2 threat back out towards New York. Main threat with that will be damaging winds and isolated large hail up to 1.5 inches in diameter. Also, a slight risk level 2 threat back out here in Nebraska and Kansas. That will also be for the potential of damaging winds between 60 to 70 miles per hour. Some small hail can't be ruled out, and a brief tornado will be possible out there in Kansas and Nebraska, but is by no means expected. Our tornado threat is really going to be focused back out here in our enhanced risk area, as well as the potential for a tornado or two back out in New York. Of course, our damaging wind risk, we'll go ahead and dive on into the probabilities now. This is your tornado risk, so there's not a highlighted area in Nebraska and Kansas, but we still could see a brief tornado. We have that tiny 2% back out there towards Buffalo, New York, towards central New York for the potential of a tornado or two. And then your more large 5% risk for tornadoes out there towards Chicago, Cedar Rapids, Davenport, Peoria, as well as back out north of Indianapolis, Indiana. That also includes South Bend. Lafayette is actually inside that 5% tornado risk now. Damaging winds, like I said, is probably going to be the biggest concern all across the board today. We do have a slight risk for potentially up to 65, maybe pushing 70-mile-an-hour winds out there in Nebraska, Kansas. The potential for 80 to 90-mile-an-hour winds in that level 3 threat, that red hatched area in Illinois and Indiana, and then again 60 to 70-mile-an-hour winds inside that level 2 threat back out there near Albany, pointing to the west in New York. Really quick, we do have a small marginal in Arizona. I just want to mention that very briefly. I don't think we'll see much there, but you know, if you live out there towards like the Tucson area in Arizona, you could have some gusty winds up to 60 out there. The hail threat today should be a little bit on the minimal side. Can't rule out up to 1-inch hail back out there in Nebraska and Kansas, Colorado, but hail is really not going to be much of an issue out there. We could have up to 1.5-inch hail out there towards the Buffalo area, to the west of Albany, New York. And then we could see some isolated 1.5 to 2-inch hail out there towards Cedar Rapids, Davenport when those storms first get going, as they are more in a discrete and semi-discrete nature. Now, before we continue on into the rest of this video, I ask that you guys please go ahead and hit that like button, share this with your family, friends, and on social media. And like I said before, make sure you subscribe to the channel with the notification bell set to all so you know when I go live later on today or upload another video. Let's go ahead and continue right on into this. We'll just look at tomorrow's threat just briefly. I don't see much of a threat for tomorrow. The northeastern's risk up here for like Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, I really don't see much of a severe weather threat out there. some isolated damaging winds that may be a possibility out there. We could see isolated instances up to 70-mile-an-hour winds in that yellow area for tomorrow. That's a level 2 threat. Now, these orange boxes you see here, that's a severe watch that is out right now for New York and Pennsylvania, mainly for about 70-mile-an-hour winds possible. But anyway, so again, for tomorrow, we do actually have a 2% chance for tornadoes. I don't see that being upgraded. The wind threat is at 15%. I don't see that being upgraded. And there is a large 5% hail risk, which actually goes all the way back out towards the St. Louis metro area for tomorrow as well. I don't see that being much of a big issue, but it could still uptrend, so we'll monitor it closely for tomorrow's severe threat. Back out here in Kansas for tomorrow, no risk for tornadoes. We do have a risk for some hail and gusty winds up to 70 for tomorrow as well out there in Kansas, Nebraska, and Colorado, but I really don't see a whole lot in terms of significant severe weather for tomorrow. I really believe today is going to be one of, if not the most notable day we've had of July for the potential of damaging winds out there. Now, of course, early yesterday morning, we did have up to 100 and I believe it was 109-mile-an-hour winds out in South Dakota. But this risk for today, it could be pretty significant. I don't want to say it's going to be as big as that risk, but this is definitely looking like one of our more notable wind bags that we've seen in the last 2 months here. So make sure you are extremely hyper weather aware if you're in and around that yellow area, that level 2 threat and that level 3 threat for severe weather. That is a level 2 and 3 out of 5, by the way. This is the SPC's outlook here. And also, if you're in that marginal, still remain hyper weather aware, but I don't expect much activity in that level 1 out of 5 threat, which surrounds most of Michigan, Ohio, and a bunch of other states that I don't really want to name because there's so many of them. Here's their population just to show you how many people are under the gun. We have over 16 million people, almost 17 million in that level 3 threat for the potential of 90-mile-an-hour winds today. Almost 25 million in that slight risk, and almost 70 million inside of that marginal risk. So a whole lot of people under the potential for damaging winds and even a couple tornadoes for today. So we'll be monitoring that very, very closely. Let's go ahead and go right on over to your HRRR model run now. We are getting a new model run in. I'm going to see if that goes out at least just a little bit. It doesn't look like it goes out that far. Really still the same timing there. The newer HRRR actually gives it a little bit of a later initiation. So this is the newest model run that's coming in as I'm recording this. It has the initiation closer towards 6 o'clock. So there's a bit of timing issues on when this threat will really begin tonight or later on today. So I'll be monitoring it, and we'll just go live whenever those storms look like they're starting to explode. So just keep a very, very close eye on your National Weather Service and Storm Prediction Center outlooks, as they will be updating throughout the rest of the day. And definitely want to be hyper weather aware out there. So please, please stay extremely weather aware if you're in that enhanced risk. I'll show it once again because that's what we really want to pay attention to. I don't want to dive a whole lot into those model runs, but again, this is the HRRR. That's just a simulated reflectivity of what may happen today. So again, 6, 6:30 storms fire, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11, 12. This is midnight Eastern, 12 a.m. Eastern, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and then those storms should be dissipating by 3, 4, and 5 a.m. Eastern time. So just please stay hyper weather aware if you're in and around that enhanced risk level 3 out of 5 for severe weather. Like I said, tomorrow's risk doesn't look to be that crazy at all. We'll take a very, very brief look at your tropical activity. There is absolutely nothing happening in the Atlantic. So here's your National Hurricane Center outlook. Not much happening, actually anything happening in the Atlantic. We do have a 40% chance for a tropical storm or depression to form out there in the middle of nowhere Atlantic, or not Atlantic, Eastern Pacific. I don't think that will do much. It may push tropical depression, but I really don't see much of an issue with that system at all. And even if it does form, it's really just going to be an issue for the fishes. So just, take note, we may see a depression spin up in the Eastern Pacific. But in terms of tropical activity in the Atlantic, it doesn't seem like we're going to see much of, if anything. Now, as we go on into day 3, so this is going to be, let me think, Wednesday. This is Wednesday's threat. We have about little over 60 million people under that level 1 risk for severe weather in the Northeast. This includes all of New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Jersey, portions of Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Delaware. as well as Vermont and Maine under that marginal risk for severe weather. I don't see that being a big issue at all. I'll just take a look at monitors on, or rather, model runs on my other screen. And yeah, it looks like damaging winds will be a concern, but that's about it. I don't see it being too significant. We could see a slight risk for severe weather introduced on that day. If we do, it would probably be up in this general vicinity here. It looks like there's 2 areas on this particular model run to watch up there, and also another area down here. So we'll keep an eye out. They may introduce that level 2 out of 5 threat as we go into tomorrow, and then eventually Tuesday, or eventually Wednesday rather. But yeah, I don't see that being too much of an issue. So again, main takeaway from this, just to brief you on everything, because I know I've been a little all over the place. That's because this is an urgent video, and I didn't want to take too long on it here. Just get that info out as quick as I can. So today's risk, isolated damaging winds, brief tornado or 2 in New York, as well as some small hail up to 1.5 inches in diameter. Up to 1 inch hail back out here, as well as 70-mile-an-hour winds possible. A brief tornado can't be completely tossed in the trash can. A couple tornadoes, including the potential for a tornado outbreak, 90-mile-an-hour winds, and 2-inch hail will all be possible in and around that enhanced risk area. Tomorrow, damaging winds upwards of 70 miles per hour looks to be a possibility in both of those yellow areas. A tornado can't be completely ruled out back out towards Kansas and Colorado, Nebraska, Oklahoma. A couple of tornadoes will be possible in New York tomorrow. However, I don't see that being too big of an issue. And the reason why I say a couple tornadoes for tomorrow is because that 2% is a little bit on the larger side. It's not a small 2%. That 2% covers over 15 million people. Then as we go into Wednesday, I don't see much of an issue out there towards the western plains, but we could still have some isolated damaging winds and large hail out there. And then again, we'll keep a close eye on this risk. It looks like they could upgrade that to a slight risk. It's a day 3 marginal, so I wouldn't be shocked if we have a day 1 slight risk level 2 out of 5 for severe weather as we go towards Wednesday for that severe weather event. Tropical activity, Atlantic is still quiet, thank goodness. Eastern Pacific could have a tropical depression spin up over the next 7 days that won't impact any land. In terms of your Atlantic season, it still looks quiet. I don't see anything concerning on the model run, so we'll just continue to monitor the Atlantic season. It should really kick up in activity towards late June, and all of August. All of August looks very, very active. So we'll see when the tropics begin to wake up, how significantly they're going to wake up. And yeah, thank you guys for tuning in to this video. I'll see you guys in today's live stream, which will be on the 15th of July. Have a great rest of your day. Stay safe. Watch this video while in the tropics. Have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.